Welcome to session 2 of Sink into Support. And in this session today, it is all about trust. And we will be exploring some very heart-opening postures, and we'll definitely need the wall again, as we will in every session in this series. And so I encourage you to have an open space. It doesn't have to be super big, but definitely have a space of open wall. And we don't need it just yet, but we will towards the end of class. And a couple blankets would be really helpful. So you might have 1 or 2 blankets handy. And just taking a moment to arrive in your space, taking a moment to kind of grab your props, grab what you need, and then I will meet you in a shape of choice. I'm gonna start on my back because that's where we're going to begin movement today. However, if starting on your back doesn't feel welcome, you don't have to. And there will be some variations of what we'll do on our back that you could also do in a seated shape if you prefer that. If you do come onto your back, if that is what you choose, then you'll definitely want enough space on the floor to lift your arms up. And so you can adjust your body likewise, depending on what you need. So for example, you might test it out by just having your arms overhead, moving some things around, and making sure you have room, kind of like you're making a snow angel. And if you're in a seated shape, you'll do the same thing, just making sure you have enough room, and then settling in. When you're confident in the space around you, you can take a moment to find any shape that feels supportive in your body. If you are lying on your back, it might feel welcome to plant your feet on the floor if your lower back is feeling tight or uncomfortable. You might also decide to extend your legs out. There's no right or wrong here. It's totally whatever feels supportive in your body. If you're in a seated shape, same thing. You can just check in with your body wherever you are. Noticing what it feels like to choose this shape that you are in. You might notice any sounds around you, whether your eyes are open or closed, it's your choice. But can you notice the sounds, either outside of the space that you're in, or even inside of the room that you're in, wherever you are? As we take just a couple more breaths here to allow our nervous system a moment to shift. Shifting gears, shifting into this moment, leaving behind all other moments, and just coming into right here, right now. As I mentioned, this class is all about trust. Can we trust the support beneath us, whether that be the wall, the floor, a bolster, a block, whatever it may be? Can we trust that support to hold us up, to provide the extra support that we need in that moment? And so as we move through class today, as we breathe in and out of these different shapes, these different sensations and emotions, I welcome you to explore this class as a way of exploring trust, specifically in the physical support around you and the non-physical, maybe emotional support, mental support, spiritual support. So the metaphysical aspects of support of your community around you, of your own body. And so whatever that brings up for you, whatever that looks like for you in class today, I invite you to explore that in your own way. And you might even create an affirmation. And I offer you the community affirmation today if you'd like, which is, I am learning to trust the support that surrounds me. That's option 1. I am learning to trust the support that surrounds me. Option 2 is, I trust the support that surrounds me. So which one feels more true to you? Or perhaps you make your own. I trust the support that surrounds me. And we can start right here, right now, with just the floor that's beneath you. Just noticing that it's holding up your weight. You don't have to do anything to make sure that the floor doesn't fall out from beneath you. You know that it's there. It's not going anywhere. It's holding you up. We can trust that. And so with your next inhale, if you're ready to start some movement, whether you're in a seated shape or a lying shape on your back, you could allow your hands to be at your sides, next to your hips. And with an in-breath, you might begin to just reach your arms right overhead, all the way up, just straight up. And with your exhale, lowering them back down. And taking a few more rounds just like this, just starting to explore, inhaling the arms up and exhaling them down. We will be exploring some heart opening shapes today, shoulder opening shapes. And so we're just starting really slowly, just allowing the shoulders a moment to wake up, to feel into this movement. And the next time you inhale your arms up overhead, you might exhale and lower them down in a big circle. So inhaling up, kind of like you're making a snow angel here. A big circle with your arms and exhaling them down. Taking a few more at your own pace. And you might even pair your breath to movement. So that might look like as you begin your movement, your breath begins. And as you end the movement, your breath also ends. And the next time your arms are reaching up overhead, we can breathe in. And if you'd like, you could exhale and bend your elbows, coming into cactus arms or a goalpost arms, so that your elbows are bent, creating this half square, half rectangle kind of shape. Noticing the expansion in your chest here, or maybe through your biceps or your shoulders. And if you'd like, you can continue moving one breath per movement. Maybe inhaling straight up overhead and exhaling down, bending the elbows into cactus arms. Noticing that it doesn't have to be super rigorous or hard or demanding movement to coax the body open, to find warmth. Couple more here. And the next time you have cactus arms, you might extend the arms out into a T, just allowing them to rest on the floor with your arms outstretched, or if you're seated, extending the arms out into a T. And we'll take a breath in. And as you exhale, option to stay here, or you might decide to cross your arms over you in a hug, reaching to your back with your fingertips. And you might feel welcome to take a pause here. Just breathing into this gentle self-hug. Feeling for a couple more breaths the support beneath you. If you're on your back, you might notice your spine touching the floor. If you're seated, you might notice the floor beneath your hips or your feet. I am learning to trust the support that surrounds me. And if you're ready to release this shape, you could inhale, stretch your arms open, taking a nice big stretch. Anything that feels welcome, maybe rolling through the wrists. And then you might release your hands down to your sides. And so here, as we begin to move into more spinal movement, if you are lying on the floor on your back like I am, I'll show that option first, and if you're seated, I'll give you a second option. So option one here, if you're lying on your back, you can bring some awareness into your tailbone. And we've done this shape before, but bringing your tailbone into your mind's eye, with your inhale, you might start to peel your tailbone up off of the mat, allowing your spine to follow. As you peel all the way up, and then you might start to peel all the way down, reversing the motion. Continuing at your own pace. Can you feel each individual vertebrae moving in tandem with the rest of your spine? And if you're in a seated shape, you can just place your hands on your legs, on your knees, and inhale. Draw the spine forward. And then bringing the same amount of awareness, you might start to curl your spine back in this seated cat-cow. So you'll still get the same spinal movement, just in a different shape. So you choose where you want to be. And we'll take just a few more breaths. Great. Last one here. And this time, the next time you get into the more of a bridge pose here, where you've peeled your spine up, let's take a pause. So if you'd like, you could just watch me first. And the reason why I'm going to get into this a bit more this time is because we're setting up for a shape, a shoulder stand shape that we'll be doing later on in class. And so if you want to take a pause and just watch me, you could do that. And reason being is because once we get into this shape, it's really not safe to turn your neck from side to side. So if it helps, you can just watch. So as we press into our feet and peel our spine up, so notice that my neck and my head are just staring straight up at the ceiling. And then if you watch my shoulders here, I'm gonna lean over to the right and I'm gonna roll and tuck my left shoulder back. And then I'm gonna lean over to the left and I'm gonna tuck and roll my right shoulder back. And so pressing into my heels, pressing into my feet, I'm lifting my hips only to a comfortable space where it feels like a good range of motion for me. And again, my neck is just neutral. My chin has come in toward my chest, just naturally as I've lifted my chest up. And so this tucking and rolling of the shoulders is very important. And while you can do whatever you want with your body, I'm just giving you some safety things to think about. And so again, I'm not going to move my neck left or right in this shape. And to come out of it, I'm just going to gently lower myself down. My shoulders will untuck, and I'll take a pause. And so if you'd like to join me in this bridge shape where we consciously tuck and open and roll open our shoulders, we'll take that one more time. So if you're ready, you could inhale, press into the heels. Maybe you peel the spine up, and then you could shift your weight onto one shoulder and tuck and roll the opposite shoulder, and then shift your weight onto that shoulder and tuck and roll your other shoulder. Taking just a few breaths here, and this might feel like, whoa, really big opening in your shoulders and your heart space, and so just know that you can release at any time. But if this does feel welcome, if you are enjoying this support, enjoying any sensations that might be happening here, I invite you to take one more conscious breath in and out. And then if you're ready to release, you might lower the hips back down, untuck your shoulders, and we can just take a pause here. We just did a really big heart opening shape. And so it might feel welcome to just pause. Noticing whatever came up for you, whether it was just noticing sensations or perhaps feeling some specific emotions. These big heart opening shapes can definitely bring up a lot. So I invite you to please be gentle with yourself, knowing that you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. This class is meant to guide you and give you options. However, you reserve the right to say yes or no to anything at any time. And if you're ready, and if you're lying on your back, you might roll over onto your side and just pause in this side laying position for a moment if it feels welcome. And then we'll continue rolling over, and I'll meet you on our stomachs. And so if lying on your stomach doesn't feel welcome, then you might stay in a tabletop shape, and I'll give you a secondary option. So option one is to come down onto your stomach, and you might even place your hands right underneath your shoulders. And we'll be moving into a cobra shape and a dancing cobra. And if this shape is like, nope, not for me today, that's okay. Then the option would be to stay in a tabletop, and you could explore cat-cows. And so a cat-cow is to drop the belly down towards the floor and then curl the spine up towards the ceiling. So if you're here with me on your stomach, hands are give or take underneath the shoulders, and the tops of your feet could rest on the floor. I invite you to connect with your breath here, in and out at your own natural pace. And then with your next inhale, you could begin to press your hands into the floor and lift your chest And continuing the same motion here of rolling the shoulders back, you might explore that. You could lift your heart space, maybe a lot, maybe a little. It doesn't matter how much you come up. What matters is your presence and your awareness when you get there. And as you exhale, you might lower the heart space back down. And inhale, you might roll right back up like a wave. Exhaling, softening, and inhaling, lifting, opening. So if you'd like, you could continue moving in this wave-like pattern for a few more breaths. Just observing any sensation that's present here. And the next time your chest is back down on the floor, you might take your hands out to the left and the right. And I'm going to have my elbows up here. We're going to take a little dancing cobra, a nice little twist for our upper body. And so you could bring your fingertips to the floor and create this nice firm tent with your fingertips. And if this doesn't feel welcome, you might prefer to continue just staying in cobra and that wave-like motion that we were just doing. So that's always an option. But if you're curious to take a dancing cobra, you can tent your fingertips on the floor, lift your elbows a little bit, and inhale, press your fingertips into the floor. And as you exhale, you could drop your left shoulder forward and look out over your right shoulder. Inhale to center. Exhale, you could drop your right shoulder forward and look over your left. So it's like a little twist with your shoulders. Maybe you take one more each side. Last one. Inhale for center. If you're ready to release, you could do so. And just take a moment here. Maybe resting your forehead on your hands, or just pausing in any shape that feels welcome. We have done a lot of spinal movement, a lot of chest opening already in this class, and so we can take a moment for integration. How is your heart space feeling? One more breath in and out at your own pace. And you can stay here as long as you like. And if and when you're ready to move from this space, you might begin to press your hands into the floor and send yourself back, coming into a child's pose. And so a child's pose could be with your knees as wide as the mat, or not as wide as the mat, maybe a little bit closer together if you prefer. And then you could allow your big toes to touch back behind you. And now you don't have to do that, but you could explore what that could feel like, and maybe notice how it feels in your hips to have your toes touching compared to not. And then when you're ready, you could send your hips back toward your heels and maybe walk your hands forward. Option 1 is to rest your forehead on the floor. Option 2 is to keep your gaze lifted. Maybe you stack your fists underneath your forehead or underneath your chin if you prefer to leave your gaze open. So you choose. Now we're coming into an opposite direction with the spine than what we just did. So now we're curling forward a little bit, gently. Not too much, but enough to feel a difference.
And so I welcome you to take 3 breaths here, 3 inhales, 3 exhales, and perhaps bring to mind the affirmation that we're working with for this class, or your own affirmation if you created your own. But the community affirmation is, I am learning to trust the support that surrounds me. I trust the support that surrounds me. And so even here with our last breath, can you feel the floor underneath your body? And you might choose to stay here longer if this shape is supporting you in a way that feels welcome. Or if you're ready to move from this shape, you might shift your gaze forward and rock forward, coming into a tabletop. And so here we have another couple options. Option 1, you might explore taking a down dog. And so that could look like taking your hands forward a little bit, just slightly past your shoulders. And you might tuck your toes here. And as you breathe in, you might keep the knees bent and lift the hips up and send them back. If that feels welcome. If it doesn't, you don't have to. And here, once you get into your down dog, because we haven't really opened the hamstrings yet, your big muscles in the back of your legs might feel kind of tight. So it might be helpful to just release one heel at a time towards the floor. And yeah, definitely can feel some tight hamstrings. And if you want, you can pedal out your feet. So releasing one heel to the floor at a time, kind of like you're riding a bike, how one pedal goes up and then the other pedal goes down. Or you could just release both heels down to the floor all at once if your body is like, yeah, I'm interested in that. Option 2, if down dog is like, no, not really working for me today, then you could come back down to your knees. If down dog is working for you and you want to keep exploring it, you can go ahead and stay there for a little bit as I give this second option. Second option is from tabletop. And here, as you exhale, we'll just allow the core to engage, maybe at like 50%. And again, that's to protect your lower back. It's not necessarily to have a core workout. And as your core is slightly engaged, you could walk your hands forward, and then you might allow your forehead to come down towards the mat. So this is a version of down dog. This is actually called puppy pose. So this is a second option. A third option is to do whatever you want, and that is always an option. And so wherever you're at, we'll just take another 2 or 3 breaths here, taking some time to feel into our bodies, noticing, observing. Last breath wherever you are. And if you are in a puppy pose, you might begin to walk your hands back, and I'll meet you in a tabletop. And if you're in a down dog, you could stay in a down dog. So if you're in a down dog, option to explore lifting your right foot up towards the sky for a 3-legged dog. Maybe giving your ankle a roll. If you're in a tabletop, you could just extend your right leg out back behind you. Same thing, maybe rolling through your ankle. And if you're ready, you could start to draw your right knee forward in towards your body and allow your right knee to kind of come to the floor as we circle our left leg around. So it's kind of just like a fun, creative way to get into a seated shape. And if that doesn't work for you and you're like, I don't get it, not the point, like, don't want to do that today,
That's okay. However you get to this space here, I'll meet you there. If the fancy smanchy version didn't work for you. So as you're here, your right foot, your right leg can be in towards your body, and your left leg can find its way out long. And you might choose to stay right here. Or you might decide to inhale and lift your arms up towards the sky. And as you exhale, option 2, lean towards your extended leg and maybe reach your top arm over as well. So you could brace your left hand on your left leg, or you could brace your left hand on the floor right in front of you, or even behind you. What is going to provide you with the most support? And so as we breathe here, you might reach through your right fingers, finding some action, some energy of reaching through your right fingertips. Or you might just soften, just allowing your right elbow, your right arm to just relax and hang. There's no right or wrong. What feels the most supportive to you in this moment? As we take one last breath here, breathing in and out. And if you're ready to leave this shape, you could inhale, come right up, reaching your right arm up, and then allowing it to fall back behind you. Okay. So this next shape we're going to do is called, it's a variation of Wild Thing. It's a nice heart opener, but I do welcome you to listen to your body and decide if this is right for you or not. So with our right hand planted on the floor back behind us, our bottom half of the body is the same. We can inhale, roll up onto this right knee. Your left foot can stay planted on the mat, and you might even reach your left arm over as you open up through the heart and breathe. Maybe your gaze is up towards the ceiling. Maybe you turn your gaze down towards the floor. Maybe turning your head over to the right if that having your gaze up caused you neck pain. As we take one last inhale, and as you exhale, you could start to lower your hips back down. As we come back into a child's pose, and pause here for a moment. Breathing and noticing, how does the right side of your body feel right now? All the way into your right hand, your right arm, your right ribs, your right hip. And how does the left side of your body feel right now? You can stay here longer. Child's pose is a great place to be. Or if you're ready to move and explore the left side, you could begin to lift your head and shift yourself forward. And again, you could come into tabletop, or you could tuck your toes and lift up into down dog. And again, there is no right or wrong. There is no better or worse. It's completely preference here. What feels welcome and what doesn't. And so if you are in down dog, you might lift your left leg up towards the sky.
If you are in tabletop, you could extend your left leg out back behind you. Option to roll through your left ankle here. And with your exhale, you could pull your right knee in toward your chest and just allow your left hip to come to the floor as we take a nice seat here. Coming into the same seated shape that we did on the other side, but this time our left leg is bent and in toward us, and the right leg is extended out. And again, you could pause right here. Or if you'd like to take the lateral stretch, the side stretch, you might inhale and reach up. And as you exhale, option to reach for your extended leg. Maybe you extend your top hand, your top arm over. Your choice of where you place your bottom hand. Maybe it's on your leg, maybe it's in front of or behind your leg. And maybe you allow your top fingertips, your top arm to have this nice long line of energy, or maybe you allow your left arm to bend, to soften, your hand to soften. You choose. And we'll be here for the next 2 or 3 rounds of breath. And with your next inhale, if you're ready to leave this shape, you could reach on up. And exhale, send your your left arm right back behind you to the floor if you'd like to join in this wild thing shape. So with your left hand planted, if you're ready, you could inhale, roll up onto your left knee, and option to reach through with your right arm. Breathing here. Checking in with your body. Where are you feeling an increase in sensation as we take our last breath? And then exhale to soften. And bring your hands onto the mat. And I'll meet you in a child's pose, or you could take any shape here that allows you a moment to pause and reflect. Couple more breaths at your own pace. Feeling whatever it is you're feeling. And if you're ready to move on to the next shape, you could start to come up into a seated shape. Okay, so I'd like to move on to the wall now as we set up for one of our final shapes. And there will be a bit more instruction with this, just for the simple fact that I want to provide instructions that will keep your body safe. And again, all of these things are your choice. However, that's where I'm coming from. Just a little heads up. All right, I'm gonna move my mat to the wall. And this is where you want your blanket to be handy. And you want your blanket to be folded in a nice square. And the closed end of your blanket, so the blanket without the fringe or the open side is going to be facing away from you, away from the wall. And if you want to just watch me while I set up for the next moment, you can, just so that it's a little bit easier. Because again, when we get into this shape, which will be a supported shoulder stand shape at the wall, you won't want to turn your neck left to right, because that could be dangerous for your neck. So if you have any neck issues, such as like neck injuries, disc issues within your neck, your cervical spine, you might forgo this shape completely, and I'll give a secondary option here in a moment. And so if you're watching, you want to place your shoulders at the edge of this blanket. I'll be sending my legs up the wall, and obviously my blanket is way too far ahead of me, so I'm gonna bring it way back. And remeasure. That's pretty good. Okay. So the tops of my shoulders are aligned with the tops of my blanket. My legs are up the wall, and what we'll do to come into this, and again, I'm turning my neck, but that's because I haven't tucked and rolled my shoulders yet. So just a little heads up. And that same action that we did at the beginning of class when we were in bridge pose of tucking and rolling our shoulders is the same action that we'll be doing this time. And the wall is going to be our support. So if you are choosing to pursue this shape, then your feet could be hip distance apart, and then we'll plant them on the wall. And so once they're planted on the wall, you could release your hands down to your sides if they aren't already. And we'll be pressing our feet into the wall and rolling up onto our shoulders, and then tucking and rolling one shoulder at a time. Before you get there, check in with your neck, and you might even lift your head, tuck your chin, and then lower your head back down. That way your cervical spine is nice and elongated. And so I'll show you first, and then I'll guide you through it one more time. So with my inhale, I'm going to breathe in, and I'm going to press my feet into the wall. I'm going to start lifting up onto my shoulders. And I'm going to adjust my feet so that they are underneath my knees. And then I'm going to shift my weight onto my right shoulder, tuck and roll my left, shift onto my left, tuck and roll my right. And so here we are. And you might notice that your hips are kind of low. And if that happens, if you want to, you could press a bit more into your hips so that you have a line of energy from your shoulders all the way to your knees. So notice that my gaze is up, my shoulders are tucked and rolled back, and the blanket is providing some support. The wall is providing some support, and my neck is actually not doing any of the work. My shoulders are doing the work here. And so to come out of it, you'll start to lower the hips back down, walk your feet back down, and then roll the shoulders out and take a pause. Okay. Again, you don't have to do this shape, especially if you have any neck injuries or you're like, this is just not for me today. Please forego it if you don't feel safe or supported coming into it. I'm going to go through it one more time, a little bit quicker, in case you want to do this with me. And instead of watching the camera or your video, you'll just keep your gaze straight up. So our blanket is aligned with our shoulders. Our feet are planted on the wall. Our hands are down at our sides. And with your inhale, you could press your feet into the wall, lift your hips, walk your feet up a little bit, shift your weight into your right shoulder, and tuck and roll your left shoulder back. Shift your weight into your left shoulder, tuck and roll your right shoulder back. And then lift up, only as much as you want to. And if this shape is feeling welcome to your body,
and you want to be here, then great, you can continue exploring that. And if this shoulder stand at the wall is like not happening today, that's okay. Here's a second option. The second option is to have a bolster or stack a couple blankets underneath your hips at the wall. So you could stack one blanket or multiple blankets at the wall, like so. Or if you have a bolster, you can just put your bolster right at the wall. And then you will come to the wall, same as we have been doing, but this time your hips will be lifted, and it will give you a similar but much more gentle shape compared to the shoulder stand that we were just in. So wherever you're at, please know that you can release shoulder stand at any time. And if you'd like to stay in shoulder stand a little bit longer, you might choose to stay there for another 3 breaths or so. Anytime you want to release the shoulder stand, please do so. And as you release back down, you might allow your legs to extend up the wall. And just rest here. Taking some time to notice how your body is feeling. Maybe even reflect on the support of the wall, the support of your surroundings in a very physical, literal sense. Knowing that you do not have to always hold yourself up by yourself. We can lean on the support around us. We can lean on our support system and the people that make up that system. Just as we find support internally, we can also find it externally. We'll begin to move into a time of quiet rest. And you might choose to stay here with your legs up the wall, or you might decide to find any other shape that feels preferable to your body. If you would like to move away from the wall, you absolutely can. You might decide to lie on your stomach or your side. You might decide to stay in a seated shape. In a way that you could explore the support around you if you choose to be in a seated shape is to even have your back against the wall, allowing your spine to be supported just as much as your glutes and your hips are underneath you. You might choose to use a blanket to cover yourself up, or any other props that feel welcome, taking ample time and space to set up your time of rest. And I welcome you to be here with me for the next 5 minutes. And just know that I'll keep track of the time and I'll let you know when those 5 minutes are complete. And you do not have to close your eyes for this time of rest if you don't want to. You might decide to, and that's okay too, but if at any point you want to open your eyes, if at any point you need to move, you absolutely can. There's no rule against it. This is your practice and your body. And so now I'll be quiet for these next 5 minutes to give you some space to lean into the support around you. You can stay here longer if this time of rest is supporting you. Or if you're ready to begin moving out of this time of rest, you might begin to add some movement into your body. If your legs are up the wall, you might begin to slide the feet down, maybe pulling the knees in toward your chest. And then in your own timing, you could roll over to one side, maybe resting in the fetal shape for a moment. And then after a breath or two there, or whenever you decide you're ready to press yourself back up, I'll meet you in a seated shape. Option to bring your hands to heart center. And if you'd like to join me for one collective breath, you might start by exhaling the air out of your lungs, and we'll breathe in together. Thank you for joining me in this class today. Please let me know if you have any questions at all. You can email me or you can comment on this video. And as always, I hope that you feel safe, connected, and at home in your body. Thank you.